something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the f*** is that, dude?
Well, g'day, beautiful people. How are you this very fine sort of a Tuesday? It's been a lovely day in my part of the world, except a little brisk. But I know that in many other parts of the world, it has been a beautiful day, right up until the friggin' aircraft come over your heads. God, they've been busy today from Tasmania to South Australia and many other places. So we'll get to talk about that in the not too distant future. So hello to everybody. I'm not sure whether or not you'll show from this morning or not. There is one on None 2K, but it wasn't across all the channels. So this one is for the most part, although we are suffering some censorship from YouTube. Don't we always? They don't like us speaking truth. And for whatever reason, they've decided to take down Voice of Freedom and the Voice of Freedom YouTube channels. It is what it is. I think we'll get them back by the end of this week, maybe. I don't know. Wouldn't go crossing too many fingers and thumbs on it. They're likely to trash everything I've got in the not too distant future. In fact, some of the things that I had prepared for last night's show, probably, given what I've read today, probably would have killed both channels again last night. So maybe there was a reason for that not happening. Who got in here first? Tim, nice to see you around, buddy. I hope you are well. I've been checking out what you've been sending me today. Thanks for that, mate. We might get into that at another time. The King's Cross documentary, The Fall of King's Cross, going to be an interesting show. Yes, I think you might be right. Not that I want to get too deeply into it, but there was a police operation in front of John Abrahams the other day in Sydney, where there were two gentlemen in balaclavas, armed with guns, very close to Mr. Ibrahim's home, which I think is in Dover Heights, a very swish suburb of Sydney. And these two fools were seen clearly by neighbours, probably Kyle Sandlands. I think he's got a house out that way somewhere. Anyway, they were seen. The police were there in pretty quick time and arrested these fools. So not saying that they were there for John Ibrahim, just happened to be in his street, as it turned out. Agate Master, good to see you in tonight too. Hey, Phil, nice to have you around, buddy. I hope things are going well in your part of the world. Toxics in. Daniel, snow in Canberra. How very unpleasant today. And snow in Oberon. G'day, Tony and the crew in Oberon. I hope you guys are warm. I'd love to be down there. A bit of snow around Oberon. I don't think I'd like to be on the roads too much, but yeah, it wouldn't be bad being in the snow. I haven't spent much time in the snow. So. And in fact, the time that I did spend in the snow during the 90s, I was probably drunk for most of it. So yeah, it wasn't all that exciting. I think Mount Hotham and Falls Creek still might have signs that I was there, put it that way, many years ago. And the Dinner Plain Hotel. I was the first person to put together a hookers and deviants ball at the Dinner Plain Hotel, just between you, me, and the gatepost. I was working at 3&E at the time in Wangaratta. That was a very big night I don't remember very much of. We won't get into it. It was one of the more embarrassing ones of my life. What else am I seeing in the chats here today? Hello, Sunflower. Daniel, don't be calling yourself a failure. You haven't failed anybody. You can't be responsible for everything that our kids do. God knows. We'd like them to be better human beings sometimes. I know that's the case for me at times, but they've got to live their own lives, and they will make their own choices, and they will make their own mistakes. And as much as, and look, it's every parent's nightmare, I guess, that the kids go and make mistakes. They don't listen, and you could save them that heartbreak, that anger, that cost, that angst. And some just refuse to listen. That is the way it is. It's all all how we grow, I guess, isn't it? You know, the lessons that we have to learn. But Daniel, you can't take on and call yourself a failure because you know, someone in your life is not doing the right thing. That's a decision that they've made, not you. And yes, while I'm sure you tried to put in good decision-making abilities, as we all do with our kids, sometimes it doesn't work. So chin up, mate. You're not by yourself, not by a long shot. Smith, hope you are well. House chaos too, and comes in. I hope you're feeling a bit better, Harm. And because I had a bit of a cold thing. Speaking of colds, yeah, I'm still not tasting anything, but not really eating. Haven't really eaten much at all in a week and a half. I'm not exactly fading away to nothing, but I have no interest in food at all. I'm drinking a lot of water, which is going down very well. Speaking of which, I may well get into it right now, because tonight's show is going to be a good one. There'll be a lot of talking involved, and the lady that I've got coming on board certainly knows how to talk. I've known Malibu Bert for, let me just count, 30 years, at least 30 years. It's got to be very close to that. Back when I originally met her, she had a brain fade and was working in the radio industry. Clarity dawned on her in latter years, and she went away and studied and became a psychologist of some note. And recently, around Tasmania, her native state, she's been handing or turning up at events and telling people about the psychological war that we're facing. And she's done a quite in-depth PowerPoint presentation that helps support that up. We're having a few troubles getting that up tonight, but at any rate, Malibu is here to talk about it. Hello, you beautiful lady. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. How cold is it in Tasmania, I guess, right now?
Well, we've had fluctuations in temperature. A few weeks ago, we were having -6. So when you stepped out at 6 a.m. in the morning, it was literally crunch underfoot on the lawn. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Bird baths, lakes, small deposits of water were obviously frozen over. So yeah, we're talking frigid here. It's everything except the snow. Very, very clear skies, as you know, keeps the cold in and prevents the heat from staying because you haven't got any cloud cover. And yeah, it's been frigid. And I'm an exercise junkie. I have to do my exercises on my cross trainer and my treadmill every morning before work. And because it's so cold, I have to wear ski gloves because I'm in my garage.
Oh, wow.
So I have to do the ski gloves and look like I'm kind of cross-country skiing. Otherwise, you won't cope under those circumstances. So you have to be an addict to wanting to put yourself through all of that. But
is it an addiction or is it a routine? Because I get the feeling at the moment, routines are something, we are falling back on, increasingly because many parts of our lives are being attacked and abused, and our stress levels are going through the roof. So I sort of see that now as a routine of mental health, fitness that people are going through, whether that's getting out of bed and going for a walk in the morning, or like you having to dress up for the Polar Explorer and get out on the cross trainer.
Absolutely. And it's really about mental equilibrium these days because people are very stressed, they're very anxious, you get depressed. It can become the spiral of despair once you lose that momentum of exercise, which, releases all the feel-good chemicals in the brain. You've got your endorphins, your oxytocin, your serotonin, your dopamine. All of these are reward chemicals naturally occurring in the brain. And when you go out and exercise afterwards, anyone who does any of that knows how much better that you feel. So for me, as a therapist, listening to people in their, often traumatic presentations, this sets me up to deal. It's like putting on my armor plating. I'm ready to go and deal with the day. But if I didn't, you feel down on yourself. You feel like you haven't done what you're supposed to do. And that can be the spiral of despair. So particularly in this climate that we're all living in, it's absolutely important that you complete small tasks, that you do what you can to make yourself feel good.
So, Malibu, last time we saw each other in Tasmania, and we were talking then about just how hectic the psychological war was on people at that time. Now, that's, 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. The war has not let up. In fact, I would say it's only increased its tempo. You have, like I said, been putting together a presentation. You've taken it around to certain areas in Tasmania and shared it with many people. I've seen that presentation. I think it's spectacular, and everybody should have the opportunity to watch it. What motivated you to put that together at this time?
That was a good point. Look, truthfully, a friend of mine was going to do a presentation on geoengineering and the chemtrails that are going on in the sky and the devastation of that. And we were going to do it together. She got pneumonia, and the lady organizing it said, look, we've still got the hall booked. What can you come up with? So I said, look, I can put this presentation together and this is more about the subtleties and the systemic way that we as a human race are being eroded, and we don't even know it. So that's
Can you elaborate a little bit?
I can. So it's very, very covert and very overt. So there's two parallels going on. So the psychological warfare, it's actually been going on really, from my perspective, a serious attack on humanity since the 1950s. And what's the first thing they want to do is they want to break down the family. But I'll get into it. Now, you can't see my slides, which is really unfortunate. So perhaps after this presentation, we can upload them so that people can see them for themselves. Would that be useful?
Absolutely, very much so. We can put it up on the VOFHQ website, and people can pop over there and have a look at it. 100%.
So what can you see from your end that I'm doing? Just my face?
Yeah, just your face.
Okay, sorry about that. It's disappointing, I know. But let's get into it. So, okay, so just a bit about me. My name is Malibu Bert. I'm a psychotherapist, not a psychologist. There's a really big difference. A psychologist is more about research and predictive outcomes. So, for example, getting a whole group of people together, adding a variable and watching their responses. Then diagnosing mental health issues. So, for example, borderline personality disorder might be a diagnosis, and they look for the criteria of symptoms that befit that kind of condition. I use a range of psychotherapeutic modalities like cognitive behavior therapy, challenging our beliefs, childhood traumas. We might work psychodynamically, existential crises, where I am, what am I doing, my family, people are dying around me, there's trauma, all kinds of things. So it's a bit of a go-to in my pocket on to pull out a range of modalities that are going to suit the individual need, because it all comes under the banner of the holistic client, what the client is going through in their own setting. And I think that's hugely important, rather than looking at generic outcomes and predictable outcomes in a group. So that's how I work. I work for the Employee Assistance Program. So I see clients all over Australia, generally in a workplace setting. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of the psychological warfare, because we're talking about every sectors in Australia, the health sector, the medical profession, where retail, education, mining, everything you could possibly imagine, and all the way in between. And there is so much bullying and harassment going on, and yet we live in a society that says we don't condone bullying. We don't allow mental health problems in the workplace. We're here for your emotional well-being. It's all about your well-being. Well, I can tell you now that is often gaslighting, because what is going on in the environment is pure unadulterated bullying, and it's pushing out of people that have been at the top of their game for 30, 40 years that know their stuff in favor of the younger whippersnappers coming through that are 24, 25, fresh out of university and have no clue about ethical responsibility, about, how things were done in the past, how we treat each other. And they'll just come in as newbies and just do whatever they're told. So that is all part of this psychological welfare. Now, just to add a bit more to that, the ultimate game, I believe, in this psychological warfare is to accept the convergence of synthetic biology and technology together. So, for example, that might be done through the series of injections using various nanobot technology and technology we're not even being told about. We don't even know what's in this technology, and that there are researchers like Karen Kingston who has shown that there, excuse me, have anomalies in the blood that we can't explain. Self-assembly technology. So ultimately, it's the convergence of biology and technology. But they want to erase what it is to be human.
I think that, I think you've really identified one of the big issues that everybody is facing, whether it be privately in a family sense or commercially in a business sense. You mentioned the word gaslit. I think catfished is also a term that would not be out of place being used. These people are deliberately, we know they're telling us lies, and yet we perceive to be nothing we can do about it. So therefore, it seems we do nothing. And let's use chemtrails, as you brought up before, as an example of that. Now, we know there is nothing natural about what is going on in our skies. We know it. Every fiber in our body tells us that. Common sense tells us that. Particularly if you're of a certain age that can remember what contrails actually looked like as they came across the sky and how long they stayed around for before they completely. They never turned into a friggin' cloud bank.
No, they would dissipate in about 3 to 5 seconds because it's the hot air in the freezing conditions. So it keeps it in that crystallized form, but only for a few seconds, 10 at most.
So how do we stand up?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is recognize the warfare that we've been put against, what we're actually up against. And so to sort of extrapolate a bit further, there are 3 ways that they can apply this psychological warfare. For example, social conditioning. They can condition you to accept behaviors and vision in the sky as norm. So you mentioned the chemtrails. That's a really good point. So what are they doing? Some of these weather places, like there's one in Tasmania called Pulse Tasmania, and they'll go, wow, look at this amazing phenomenon in the sky, these wispy clouds, and they call them something like cumulus stupidus, and it's never been around before, and it's these wispy, curly clouds that nobody has seen before 2015. But yet the warfare is that Disney have actually commissioned an artist, a graphic artist, to go back to some of the movies from the last 20 years and insert pictures of chemtrails. So they're conditioning to go, oh, that's not new after all. Those are actually in those. That's what that looks like in the movie. It's all a psyop. So they're socially conditioning you, not about just that, but to condition behaviors and accepted norms that you wouldn't normally. That is a really good example. Another way that they're doing, it's a 3-pronged approach. So you've got your social conditioning, then you've got your incremental desensitization. What that means is slowly over time, eroding your shock value. You're becoming desensitized to things like violence, conflict, racial slurs, put in a position where you're going to go, oh, hey, that's not so bad anymore. And finally, the erosion of the nuclear family. So social conditioning is one incremental desensitization and the erosion of the nuclear family. And what is the nuclear family? This is your tribe. This is who you want to be part of, to feel solid and strong. So further to that conditioning, they then condition us to accept and normalize certain beliefs and behaviors that are no longer okay. But over time, as I'm going to demonstrate in this presentation, we're being conditioned to accept them and believe that they are just normal. Further to the systematic desensitization is systematic exposures to violence and death to reduce shock value. A good way of looking at that is you go to a regular mainstream media website, my favorite, news.com.au. What a shining example of great, journalism that is. More often than not, they will have imagery and it says, warning, distressing content. They want you to click on it. They know fundamentally that the human condition has this almost a morbid curiosity to see things you're not supposed to look at. It's like seeing a car accident and you can't look away. It's the same premise. Do not look at this warning, distress, and what do? Click on it. And then they measure that to see how many people are looking at it. Okay, people want to see someone's last moments. That's a really good indication of what's happening down the track. They can do more of that. And so it's giving them really good research data. And then finally, part of that three-pronged approach is to break down the family unit, divide family units, and isolate. Good example of that is to create dissension about the vaccines, well, they're not vaccines, the injections, about the yes vote, about giving what supposedly is a voice to Parliament for our first Australians, and isolating people that are no longer talking to each other because you don't believe what I believe. So there must be something wrong with you. So it's creating all of this conflict. Okay, so
we are seeing that, though. We as the general public are seeing that conflict. Many of us are very awake to it, but yet others seem to just involve themselves in that drama. Is that part of the conditioning?
Absolutely, to cause more conflict. So people are going to start arguing, but it's about this, but it's about that. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, but also they're going to show you how people communicate with each other and normalize abuse within that family or that relationship dynamic. So the first thing that they need to do, the first cab off the rank really, is to break down the family. How are they going to do that? Who is the matriarch of the family that bonds the family together? The mother. So back in the 60s or thereabouts, they decided under the auspices of women's rights, get it? Gender rights, women's rights, it's all following the same doctrine. We're going to get women out of the workforce. Women, suddenly, it's your right to earn as much as men. It's your right to go out and get out into the workplace. No longer should you be subjugated to being in the kitchen and baking cookies and wearing an apron. Is this okay with you? No. You deserve what other women need to be a shared person. Get out of that workplace. You're being pummeled. You're being suppressed. So there you are. Women's liberation. Burn the bra. It worked. It's fake rights to break the family unit. Then the kids, because the mother is now in the work environment, what do we do with the kids? We put them in preschool. We put them in after-school care. We allow them to be in the system, to be indoctrinated. They're not going to be caring about family values. This is a prime opportunity for the government and the powers that be to tell your children where it's at. So kids go into elderly care because if you remember back in the day, families lived in one big house. The grandparents worked as a unit to help support their kids, and then the kids support the grandkids, and then the elderly people support the grandkids. They're all there as backup, as this wonderful, tight, cohesive unit to all work together. But suddenly, kids in care, elderly people, when they're no longer able to look after themselves, they go into aged care. So they get institutionalized, just like the children do. And then you add to that the rising cost of living, working longer, 7 days a week, the Sabbath, which was supposed to be the sacred day for the family to be together, to bond. What's going on, son? What's going on, daughter? Being hands-on as a tough and strong and solid family unit. Kids are now working 7 days. Oh, sorry, I can't come to lunch. Sorry, I've got to be at a job. Mum's working full-time. Fathers are working full-time. It's breaking down the family bonding time.
Yeah.
Under the auspices of your rights and your need to make money. So we're putting money and monetary gain and financial rewards ahead of the joy and love of being part of a family.
Once again, that's to do with the conditioning we've got, because that's why we have such a busy and successful advertising industry. You've got to have the latest, greatest, new, shiny this. And hey, that is an iPhone that is, well, I don't know, 13. I don't know what we're up to now. I think that's actually an iPhone 11 Pro, not a 13. That's an 11 Pro. Now, I couldn't care less how old my phone is, but there are those people in the world who must have the next new latest iPhone, regardless how many thousands of dollars it's going to put them in debt for, and they will line up for days for it. It's not just Apple; it's for so many other technology pieces. But it's not just technology, though, is it? It seems to be pervasive into just about every aspect of our lives, where they're weaning us toward the technology and away from the community, away from the family unit.
Absolutely. It's all about diminished human contact and interaction. So they start you off with wearable watches. Remember those 10 years ago? I've got my Apple Watch. This is going to record my biometric data, Carl. How wonderful. What's my blood pressure? What's my cholesterol? How many steps did I take today? 10,000 steps. Oh, wow, this is amazing. I don't know what I ever did without it. I am managing my own well-being and biometric data by using this wearable watch. So already we're getting used to the interface between biology and technology. And so this is all part of preparing for the metaverse, where you're going to become reliant on technology, because the human interaction, that's flawed, isn't it? You don't want to get out your blood pressure machine when you've got it at your fingertips. Remember, it's all about convenience. Then, of course, you got your mobile phones. Now, I think the iPhone 14 has come out, because I've got an iPhone mini, and that's a 13, and I think that's a couple of years old. But the mobile phone, everyone can relate to that. That is a device to destroy connection. You watch any family, they're all out to dinner. What are they all doing? They're looking down at their phones. They're all interacting with missing out.
Great image I saw today of people who were at a fencing event in France. I'm not going to name the event they were at, because the whole event disgusts me, as does France, basically. But Mick Jagger was sitting there watching this fencing, and around him was a bunch of millennials sitting beside him, behind him, in front of him, and all of them are not even watching the event that's happening in front of them. They're all like this with their mobile phone. And completely oblivious that one of the, most prominent rock stars is sitting there, too just caught up in their own importance or their own programming, I guess is the way.
So the part of the conditioning in relation to that, Carl, is it doesn't matter who's in your presence. They don't want you to be present. So they don't want you to be in the moment. They want to be looking at everything else that they might be missing out. And that could be, their friends over in Canada or the United States sharing this. This is where I am here. What are you doing? It's all completely absolved. It's like diving in headfirst into a pond, and we are completely submerged into a metaverse, a new reality where everything is going on other than where you are biologically in this moment. All conditioning. Okay. The other part of part of this whole diminished human contact and interaction is, of course, conditioning 3-year-olds and even earlier to have an iPad to interact with the screen. Now, what's really awful about interacting with a screen is the subtleties of human communication. And this was particularly rife during the pandemic, when they had parents wearing masks, children at a crucial age of development that need to be able to identify the subtleties of communication. Am I turning my lips up? Am I turning my
Mm.
lips down? Am I winking at you? Am I being jovial? Am I having a joke with you? You can't tell what any of those signals are if half the face is obscured by a mask and you've only got these two beady eyes staring down at you. All of those talents are being completely eroded. You can't get that back. That's part of child development, to recognize the subtle cues. Notice the juxtaposition of subtle cues in facial expressions and also autism spectrums 1 and 2, where they're not able to identify that. It's largely impaired, and that's all by design as well. But anyway, I digress. So diminishing human interaction and contact, and preparing us for the metaverse, preparing us for the virtual world. Now, other ways that they can do this is they're getting you to agree and comply and accept violence. So the violence I mentioned before, you've now got kids that are playing, this has actually been going on since the 80s, kids that are playing gaming violence, where it's shoot 'em up and it's becoming more and more realistic. And
Grand
kids
Theft Auto, where you drive over people on the footpath, jump out of the car and bash the hookers for money. An appalling game.
Appalling game. But this is desensitizing you because it's not real, but it looks real. So when it does happen in real life, you've seen it so many times, many people are going to say, doesn't affect me that much. Some people will still be disturbed, but the general population won't be. Because remember, this is systematic over time. So the other thing,
and the courts are not as harsh on that sort of thing these days as they once were. In fact, if you find somebody brought before the courts for something that, in the past, probably would have got them a short jail term or something like that, today, you'd be lucky to get them into court because, just the simple fact that you or I said, hey, listen, what they're doing is wrong, they'd have us charged for, being discriminatory or, hurting their feelings.
Hate speech.
Hate speech. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. That's all part of the PSYOP as well. You're not allowed to say anything. You're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to object. It's all about under the umbrella of the rights of the individual. And another really good adjunct to that, actually, I'm glad you reminded me of this, is somebody enters your home, a criminal, with intent to rob or rape your daughter or whatever it is. They're armed. If you're trying to protect your home and your daughter and you injure them, you're the one that gets charged. But they're the ones that are in your house committing the crime. It's a break and enter. But if anything happens to that person, you shoot them in the leg just as a warning to get away, you get charged. The world has become...
That's why I counsel and employ a different idea with that. Most of the people, they're going to your house to rob you. So when they get caught, nobody knows where they are.
Okay, sorry. You just cut out a bit there. What was that part?
Well, when a thief comes to rob your house, they usually haven't advertised to all their friends and family which house they're going to go and rob. So when you catch them inside your house, no one knows where they are.
And so?
Well, it's very, very difficult to report to the police that, I broke into somebody's house and they hurt me if you don't let them out of your house.
True. Absolutely. But these are all the rules that are changing. And so as part of that psychological welfare, everything, us older people that know what it was like can make comparisons. And this is why they don't really want older people hanging around too often. They want to attack the younger people because they're more malleable. They don't have a basis of comparison. So further to this whole obey, comply, conflict, violence, desensitization is certain things like verifying your identity now. You can't just say I'm Joe Bloggs or this is my banking details. I need to transfer money from one account to another. Now you've got to go via your phone every time to verify, supposedly for your safety, of course, to protect you from money laundering and other nefarious practices that might be going on. It's coming under and getting you to be also prepared for the zero trust environment. Instead of being innocent until proven guilty, you're guilty until you can prove you're innocent. You are not who you say you are, Carl Lilbold, until you prove to our satisfaction that that's who you are.
Yep, 100%
And so
right.
conditioning you to verify all those details, and also the QR codes, checking in, here I am, all part of the track and trace. But I think we're all fairly up to speed with that. Now, let's move on into attacking relationships. Attacking people and normalizing for the younger generations that abuse of each other and disrespect of each other is now the norm. So I actually have a video clip from Married at First Sight from one of their earlier promos, which illustrates really well how people talk to each other. And younger people are seeing that and thinking, well, that's normal. Can I play it? Will you be able to hear it, I wonder? Will we give it a go?
Yeah, give it a go. We'd probably hear it.
Okay, so we'll just play a bit of it.
Would you have dated Jonesy like outside of the experiment? Definitely, yeah. I'll tell you no if I didn't think so.
Bullshit. Absolutely, I'm questioning Cheryl's intentions because it was all bullshit. It was a complete act. She doesn't deserve a second chance.
You got a membership to a girl strip club.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How often do you go to the strippers?
Probably once or twice a month. We could just chill out, have a good conversation.
So you enjoy looking at naked chicks with their panties and tits in front of you?
It's just like, come on now.
I'm interested to know because I want to get to know what kind of guy you are.
Have some respect.
Have some respect. Don't you tell me about have respect.
Do you know what he does for a living? He's a stripper.
I didn't know.
Yeah, because I'm not allowed to tell him.
Right, okay. You don't really care what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I think if this is how it's going to go, he's not even going to talk to me, then I'm keeping a secret.
Fair enough. Well, that's interesting.
I get paid to just fucking me. Princess with the stripper. Are you really?
Oh my god.
Who is?
No one. She's joking.
By putting yourself in this position, though,
Yeah, it makes me
where you're
look
having a
like hell.
second time round,
Yeah.
you got to get it right. You're going to look like an idiot if you get it wrong.
I just think it's so rude to be like, if I don't get this right, that's it. Like, that's to you, that's your opinion. That's rude, honestly. Like, I walked in here with my heart on my sleeve and you go, get this right or else. Like, who are you to say that, though? You don't even know me.
You're so full of shit.
I'm full of shit. Don't even, if you want to go there, I'll go there. But do not say I'm full of shit.
And it certainly wasn't in that tone of voice, because whenever you heard me speak in that tone of voice like that, I'd never speak like that.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay. So now it's getting really nasty.
Okay, is that enough?
Yeah. Wow.
So what we're seeing, and this is the promo, is people are full of shit. Don't talk to me like that. Where's your respect? He's just told her he goes to stripper clubs and he's happy with that. We're normalizing that men have these urges and they should be satisfied. Then, telling the girl she's full of shit and then mimicking her, I don't speak like that. We're demoralizing each other. We're showing each other that your opinion doesn't matter. I don't believe what you're saying. You don't deserve a second chance. Now, is this showing the younger generation, Carl, that we show love and kindness and respect to each other? No, they package this together as entertainment. We're supposed to be entertained by it because everybody goes to work the next day. Oh, wow, did you see what happened on maths? Without realizing we are conditioning you to hear that behaviors. 12 and 11-year-olds are hearing that and go, that's how adults speak.
It's just so wrong that...
It's so wrong.
Well, we have arguments quite regularly about respect with certain different age groups around me. There are those younger ones who believe that they are due every ounce of respect in the world and yet have to give none because apparently older people don't deserve respect. They deserve division or derision. They deserve to be mocked they deserve to be told they're stupid or that things have changed. And yet these little pipsqueaks are the first ones to squeal when they are, put in their place by an elder, if you like. I think that's good parenting, good community parenting. It's not exactly the slap, but if you're going to pull young'uns up for disrespect, then I think the community has to be part of that. It can't be just a single parent's job anymore, because that right has been taken away from parents. It now has to come back to the community.
Absolutely. And that's all by design, taking away the parents' right. You can't smack your child. Now, back in my day, if I was going to run out in front of traffic, I deserved to be smacked to stop me from endangering myself. But nowadays we've got to sit down and tell them all the things about, you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. And they're not dealing with the issue. They're not being parents. So that's also showing the kids subliminally, parents have no rights.
Yeah.
What mum and dad are telling me is not the norm, not what I'm seeing in the media or on my TikTok or whatever they're being exposed to, because social media is also part of the desecration of children. So I'm going to get into children, because the next mode of social conditioning and systematic desensitization and the breakdown of the nuclear family is an attack on children, their innocence and their identity. And part of that process is attacking them, destroying the innocence and confusing them. And so one of the things that's been going on a lot, that a lot of people have started talking about, is, of course, the drag queen story time. Now, drag queen story time positions itself as inclusivity, reading books to the children about kids that, might have a different skin color or so forth. No, it's not. It's the indoctrination of children. And it's by choosing drag queens only as the only source of story time. And I'm going to show you a clip, and I know you can only hear it, but it's the ABC reporting on a drag queen story time protest. And just pay attention to how this ABC story is skewed. How do you think they're presenting it? And I'll just play it now.
Protesters clashed outside the Maylands Library. Inside, a drag artist reading a book to kids, a community event intended to promote inclusiveness and diversity. But outside, tensions were high.
What's your fear that will happen today with the drag queen reading children's books?
I'm not sure, but it's allowing children to listen to stories that are not appropriate.
Similar events across the country were disrupted in recent months. Some even cancelled after threats were made against staff. But today's story time went ahead.
Protesters turned out to oppose drag story time, but the counter-protesters have drowned them out. Hundreds turning out in support. We're not going to let you just, trounce around and try and shut these things down. We're going to defend it.
Cougar Morrison says there's been growing opposition to drag story time and trans culture across the country.
Inclusive books just mean that these characters might have a different skin color other than white. They might have a different way of expressing themselves, and they may even come from a different family dynamic.
She says the opposition has only fueled her desire to continue what she's doing. Kason Ho, ABC News.
Okay, did you notice anything about that story, Carl?
Very soft, no negative. It was no negative toward the drag story at any rate. It was more a mocking of the people outside, or a lack of understanding of why they were actually there.
Congratulations. Sorry, that sounded condescending. I didn't mean it to be, but absolutely, that's exactly what it was. This is a very biased ABC story. So you notice they got the opposition, a lady to talk about what she's opposed to. She couldn't even articulate. Why are you here? They're saying, I don't know. I guess it's about drag queens reading inappropriate material to children. Well, what does that mean that they're doing that? What are inappropriate children? What are they saying? They deliberately chose someone that could not articulate very well. Then you cut to the other side and the presenter is saying, but, you know, the story went ahead. And then what do? They put in clapping and cheering. Sublime message to the audience. Yay, those shitty protesters trying to ruin our inclusivity and fun, they will not be destroyed. Then they got the second guy to say that, you know, you just can't come in here and trance around and tell us what to do. And then finally you had the drag queen herself saying, this is just about inclusivity. The person might have a different skin color. The person might come from a different family dynamic. Now, that's the story, right? Now, when you look at the book, I looked at the book that she was holding up. And the book, hang on, sorry. And the book is called, this is the one she was reading to them, Katerina Cruikshank's Ages 3 to 7. Now, tell me if this is about someone who just might have a different skin color or come from a different family dynamic. Are you ready? This is a review from an author from the Irish Examiner. Katerina's wonderfully eccentric personality and theatricality, does that sound familiar? Shines through on every page where the kaleidoscopic illustrations help bring the whimsical nature of their character to life. What stands out about this book is the author's choice to use non-binary pronouns for the main character, a rarity in children's books. Because their identity is not a factor in the storyline, in other words, they are they, them, it represents the LGBTQIA plus community. And and instills inclusivity simply by celebrating people and their differences. What a load of bullshit, Carl. If you want to celebrate people with their differences and their inclusivity, why aren't you having people from an Asian culture talking about the way that they do things, or someone from Romania, or French farming, or French cooking, or someone from another country?
French alone.
Okay, leave the French alone. Why is it only about drag queens? Because they are delivering the propaganda. They are deliberately targeting kids that have a propensity for dress-ups around ages 3 to 7. I don't know. I wasn't dressed up in my mother's clothing and walked around in her ridiculous high heels with pearls. And I could have easily been, you know, duped into the idea of, oh, I want to wear this all the time. They are conditioning the kids to accept that their gender is fluid. They don't have to be he, she. They can be they, them. And they are underscoring the LGBTQIA plus community. That is doctrine and nothing more.
What happens when the community pushes back?
Ridicule. Now, I'm glad you said that, because that segued to my next article on news.com.au, and it's a picture of a kid or someone dressed up as a furry, and it says, and the headline is on news.com.au, parents and teachers warned not to ridicule school kids who identify as animals. So in other words, don't say anything and let them allow themselves to express themselves. So they're already teaching people, teachers and students, don't do anything negative. Allow the process. And so
There are schools that are putting kitty in the back of the classroom for some of these kids.
Sorry? What? What was that? Sorry, Carl, what did you say?
Or
I've lost.
Oh, I'll have another go. So there are schools in America, rather than here, I think, at the moment, although God knows it's probably not far from here, that have kitty litter in their classrooms for those children that identify as furries.
Okay, stop. I now have a Sky News little bit here where we've got Sky News The Outsiders, talking about that and a school in Brisbane that is adopting that. And just pay attention and this is all about identity for kids, shaping their future. Tell me what you think about the way they deal with this story. You ready?
If you haven't heard of a furry, you're about to hear of one now. So have a listen to this school, this worried parent in the States.
There are kids that identify as a furry, a cat or a dog, whatever. And so yesterday I heard that at least one of our schools in our town has in one of the unisex bathrooms, a litter box for the kids that identify as cats.
Daisy, James and I always take a vote on who's going to get the tricky ones. This came your way, Daisy. Furries, and apparently there's some furries, there's a furries trend in your hometown of Brisbane.
Sadly, yes. It turns out that at a Brisbane private school, there are students who have jumped onto this new furries trend and who do, in fact, believe they are cats and foxes. They lick their paws, and there is one girl apparently cut a hole in her skirt to make room for an imaginary tail. However, didn't get a uniform infraction for it when ordinarily she possibly would, because that's how she identifies. So that's that.
Corey was right. I'll just repeat that. Corey, you were right. In fact, even Corey didn't imagine it would go this far. James.
I have to suggest that the first thing that I read about this was that these students could actually be engaging in a fantastic prank here, because all of the establishment has told them that you can be a boy or a girl, whatever you want to be. And so therefore, I suspect that what's happening here is that these kids are absolutely trying to find limits and pushing them. And the hilarious thing here is that the authorities are just saying, oh, well, this is perfectly fine. And if you want to identify as a cat and have a tail sticking out of your uniform and be grooming yourself in,
hang on, I think we've got a secret furry.
That they're just having fun.
Okay, you get the general idea. They're laughing about it. They think it's funny. That guy, even though you couldn't see it, was actually mimicking a cat by licking his nose and his paws and rubbing his head, like supposedly his cat ears. They are laughing at it. They think it's funny. Why don't they do sensible advertising or sensible interviewing and have someone talking about, well, should we be doing this? Should we be allowing this process of children identifying as creatures that they are not? Because what is it going to cause? What sort of damage is it going to cause in the classroom? So let's say, for example, you've got a child that is really insecure, that is not getting any attention at home. His parents or their parents are not actively involved in their lives. They want attention. I think I'll be a fairy because look how much attention this fairy in the classroom is actually getting. So you're creating a phenomena where kids might start adopting these behaviors and these negative elements that are hugely disruptive to their psychological development just to feel accepted or to get attention because they're insecure or have other mental health issues. So is this a funny story? I think not.
It is just disgusting.
If you haven't...
The fact that the education department seems to facilitate it, I find disgusting. In the chat, I'm surprised. There are people from Perth who say that the kitty litter is in schools there, Mount Gambier in South Australia, Bairnsdale in Victoria, and many other places. I can't believe that parents are allowing their schools that are charged with the education of their children. I can't believe you're not turning up to the Prime Minister, the principal of the school, and shaking them by the collar, asking them what the hell are you thinking?
Because
you probably wound up in jail because you're harassing the school, which is in fact the government, and you've abdicated your rights to educating your own children, so they're going to do it any which way they feel.
Absolutely, and the school is kind of taking over now. You're not actually allowed to interfere with what they're agreeing with at the school. It's seen as hate. It's seen as aggression. It's seen you're the one that becomes aggressive, and you're not allowing freedom of expression. This whole hate mail and aggression is something that's really started up. So, for example, another thing that's about social conditioning, you may have noticed that whenever you ring up an institution, it might be Centrelink, it might be your local bank, you just want to talk about your account. What's the first thing you hear while you're waiting to be put through? Abuse and anger, or any form of aggressive behavior will not be tolerated. Anyone that does not show disrespect into the workplace, or is disrespectful for any of our tellers or helpers or whatever, that the call will be cut off. So they are socially conditioning you to accept that you cannot argue the system. I'm sorry, sir, you've been warned. Yes, but you don't understand. I'm trying to get my money out and your system is not allowing me. I'm sorry, sir, you're raising your voice. We will disconnect the call.
Yep.
This is where it's going. And people are listening to this all the time. We're all being indoctrinated at, oh, that guy was rude. He was abusive. That's not tolerated. Click. Doesn't matter what the reason is. You know, AI is going to be showing up very soon, and the best customer service from a human perspective is going to become diminished, and people are going to get angry. So they're setting you up to accept the fact that you cannot argue, because that will be deemed as aggressive or hateful.
Yeah,
it's a
and
big
they
setup.
box us in. They box us in. The moment you show any sign of frustration, they will close the doors, pull down the shutters, and have you charged.
Yep. Or
Because you
banned,
can't
or whatever it
feel
is.
that way. Or banned, yeah, all of the above.
Yep. And
So,
that's another part of the psychological warfare, where they're actually preparing you for the what's it called? The guilty until innocent, the zero trust system. So instead of being innocent until proven guilty, you've got to now prove who you are. You've now got to prove this or whatever else it is, because we have to decide upon first meeting you that you're already guilty. You do not already have a great reputation. You could say to a bank, for example, I've been a customer here for 25 years. I'm sorry, sir, but if you will not update your identity or become a digital ID or anything like that, you will not be allowed to access your account. You will not be allowed to get online. So what are you going to do? You're going to get mad. You're going to ring up and say, what's this stuff going on? I'm sorry, sir, abuse will not be tolerated. Click.
Yep.
See how it's all entwined, coming together?
Yep.
Now, the other attack, go on.
Sorry. No, you go.
I was going to say the other attack is eroding us as humanity, and that's some of the things that I was talking about before. So, for example, it's the divine, it's the creator, it's whatever you want to call it, God or whoever. It's the idea that we are a divine and meaningful creation. You, Carl, and me, and everybody who's listening, we are unique individuals. We have unique, wonderful traits that nobody else on this planet has. We have wonderful skills, and we are part of a meaningful creation to have meaning and purpose. And part of that is under that jurisdiction of the divine, and some Christian beliefs or divine beliefs is to do no harm, to love thy neighbor, to do unto others as you would have done unto you, kindness, compassion, to be grateful in an intelligent universe by design. All of these things give us meaning and purpose. Hey, I am special. I'm here to do wonderful things, but they don't want that. Because when we have meaning and purpose, it helps us feel good. And it also releases the feel-good chemicals in the brain: dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin. These are the natural God-given chemicals that are released into our brain to reward us for doing good things. Helping a neighbor, somebody stuck by the side of the road, you help, pump up a tire, celebrating little wins, taking care of ourselves, eating healthy food, connecting, playing with a baby releases oxytocin, the love hormone that helps the mother bond with her fetus. But also beyond that, connecting and giving someone a hug or a compliment. These are all natural phenomena. because we have meaning and purpose and a desire to do good. But if you take all that away and you tell us that there's nothingness out there, that becomes a recipe for despair, because you remove the divine creation, the divine uniqueness of humanity. Then what do you got? Our good friends, the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory says you came from nothing, that you're random, that you're meaningless, that you're purposeless. I'm just here because. There's no intelligent design. I'm not a unique individual. I'm an accident. And if we add that even further, we talk about the evolution of man. We evolved from the apes. We're not designed in God's eye or by this divine creator to be this unique and amazing individual. No, we evolved from the apes. Well, let's argue that point if we can. If we evolved from the apes, why are there so many apes left over? Did some apes just go, you know what? I don't want to evolve into
I
a
don't want to
human
evolve.
being.
Yeah.
I want to stay in a tree and eat bananas. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But they want
You're
you to
right.
accept that you came from nothing, you evolved from the apes over time as part of that Darwinism, that evolutionary theory, and that you are meaningless. So if you look at the identity attack, the trajectory, you came from nothing, you evolved from the apes. You could be anything, male, female, non-binary, or identify as a cat, because guess what? It doesn't matter. It's all random. I can choose to change because I wasn't meant to be anything anyway. They're indoctrinating kids to say the doctor was just guessing when you were born. Oh, you might have had a penis. Oh, well, it might be there now, but, you don't have to have that. You don't have to be defined.
Yeah.
It's a massive attack. And because of that, because we don't know who we are, we don't know what our identities are, we turn to maladaptive coping mechanisms, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, gaming, violence. We want to self-soothe. I want to feel better. I'm not real. I have no mission here, no purpose. I might as well get high, get drunk. Find ways, and that's ways of getting those dopamine and oxytocin hits and serotonin hits by doing it through artificial means, instead of realizing that you are a unique and divine individual and you can get these things naturally. But no, we've been depressed, we've been repressed. Let's go for the quick hit. So it creates further to that confusion, despair, no meaning, no purpose. Heart and mind seeks to self-soothe by adopting those maladaptive behaviors because you want to avoid the distress. You don't want to deal with the fact that everything is nothing.
I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. There's a lot of people who are saying how much they are really enjoying the chat with you tonight, Malibu, and that's because you really know your shit. And thank you very much for putting together the presentation, which you've been sort of working off at your end and we haven't been able to see.
I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send it to you.
So send that through and I'll upload it to the VOFHQ website so people can actually see the material that you've put together. It's important stuff. And I guess, what is the positive message that we want to leave the viewers with this evening? How can we battle this?
That's a really good question. Well, I think it's a recognizance that you are in a domestic violence relationship with the government, that it's all about control and manipulation and abuse. And this is really abuse on all sides: kids, relationships, the family, the works. Now, when we're confused and disoriented, then we are easy to control and manipulate. So if I could leave you with a positive in relation to that, know who you are. Go and Google your values, people. What do you represent? Kindness, compassion, decency, reliability, transparency, honor. What are the things that matter to you? When you know what those things are that matter to you and they convey who you are, then you can choose what you will and won't tolerate. Hey, this isn't transparent. This isn't real. This isn't being decent and honest. I want to be who I know I am, and you stand tall in your belief of self and not allow them. It's akin to be like If you can be manipulated and you don't know who you are, you're a leaf blowing in the breeze, waiting for the wind to put you down. But if you know who you are and you're solid in your beliefs and your values, then you are a tree trunk with solid roots, and the wind can blow as much as it like, and you will not stand for it because you know who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I look forward to having you back on again for another chat much sooner this time. It's been too long since we've had you on. And,
but thank you very much for having me.
No, well, look, when I saw your presentation the other day on Facebook, I just thought we've got to share that because it's extremely important for people to learn the nuances of what they are doing to us. Maybe it's not completely plain to you. Then I can tell you that Malibu's presentation will help open your eyes and maybe open up the eyes of family and friends around you if you're going to have this conversation with them. Thank you, Ms. Bert. And I can't let you go without telling us how the tennis court is going and how the horses are.
Oh, really, Carl? Well, it's flooded at the moment because it won't stop raining due to geoengineering. But horses are good. I've even got an extra horse, and they're all doing very well. So thank you for asking.
So you've got a couple of rugs, obviously, for the horses.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's freezing down to -6 some nights, so you've got to take care of them and keep them warm.
I'll let you go and throw another log on the fire. Thanks very much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Okay.
Malibu Bert, ladies and gentlemen. She's based out of Tasmania, a psychotherapist, and I will post up, and when I say I will, Vince will, post up the PowerPoint presentation. Malibu will send it through shortly to me, and we'll have it up hopefully a little later tonight or tomorrow morning for you to have a look at. It is very important and very useful information. So if you've got 10 minutes tomorrow to go through it, I'd urge you to do so. All right. Thanks, Black Sheep. Everything Malibu has been saying has been accurate. Good to see you, Malibu. Yep. Black Sheep was with me last time we caught up with Malibu, so he knows her. And, of course, she's pretty well known around Tasmania. So there's a lot of folks there who see her pop up at various different events. She's such a supporter of everything that the freedom movement generally is doing across not just Tasmania, but across the nation. So fabulous to have her as part of the show. And I feel quite honoured to have her as a friend for so long. So thank you very much again. All right, folks, going to love you and leave you for tonight. It is going to be a little chilly here. I don't think it's going to be -6, but it will be down into single figures again tonight. I do have a gas bottle that's working, though. So, woohoo! I may not freeze to death. That'll be bloody decent. If you are heading out on the roads tomorrow, folks, I'm told the day is going to be very, in Queensland at least, we're expecting lots of sunshine early in the morning and then those clouds to turn up in the afternoon after a number of flights. Now, those flights today seem to have been happening in southern areas, Tasmania, Victoria, New South Wales, and South Australia. Now, that generally means that they're engineering something that's going to be mixed pretty much over central New South Wales for the next few days. Some of it will split north and come up through Queensland. Some will go straight across the New South Wales coastline. There's going to be a bit more rain coming, and temperatures are going to stay low for the rest of this week. So rug up, folks. Stay warm. Get a diesel heater. Yeah, Scotty, a diesel heater would be a bloody great idea, actually, and probably got room to put one in here, but the gas one does work. It just makes it very stuffy. I haven't quite figured the thermostat out yet, but it's either too hot or too bloody cold. But at any rate, we'll get there. Folks, have yourself a great night, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. If you are heading out on the roads, you know, the only thing that you have to do is steer clear of those dickheads. Have a good night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!